Hi y'all, welcome to Tarot Mafia. We're glad you stopped by. Today we're going to discuss what I've been silently and on my own trying to track, notate, sleuth, and crack this case. Now I am speaking of the Piketon Massacre, the Rhoden family, the 8 members that were executed in their homes on April of 2015. Now, I've not done any reads that I have publicly posted. I've done a few little, touching base on. I got that George Wagner wasn't the fourth, that he didn't kill anybody, and that he would be getting to return home. And even though the jury found him guilty, I still see him walking out them doors. And that's probably going to be on the appeal that he just had filed right before Christmas. So here is my issue. This is going to be kind of a touchy, long video, so just hang in there with me. I feel like that this case is not being discussed honestly. And what I mean by that is I have a whole book of notes, questions, trying to put puzzle pieces together. Now, if you haven't heard, if you're very interested in this case and you've watched it from day one like I have, I'm obsessed with it. This was a bad thing. There's a podcast on iHeartRadio. Now, I don't usually plug others, but this podcast, I have learned more in this podcast than I have from any news source or news outlets, which we know how mainstream media is. But this podcast is where you need to be listening if this case is something you're following. Now, I felt like from day one that this wasn't simply 3 guys going along with a plan that the whole family has created to annihilate an entire bloodline over custody. Now, I have my thoughts on why, and I have some things that I've got wrote down here. I'm going to read off this list here on why I believe that it's not always what you see with this case. Now, without, like I said, I don't want to, first video on this, bombard anybody with information or facts or notes. So I'm just going to go through a few, and I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we'll just go piece by piece. Now, here are my notes for today's video about why I've come to the conclusion that this case ain't what it seems. Now, I did start in the beginning timeline, but then my thoughts are going everywhere, so if you get confused and can't keep up, I totally understand. Now, starting with the time that it has been alleged that it took to carry out all 8 murders, essentially almost by Jake himself, who states or admits to 5 of the 8 killings in 4 separate crime scenes. Now, this is impossible, you all. And I'm basing this on this simply on its own. If you know anything about guns, if you've been around guns or shotguns, this said, it's not said, it's fact, it's in the police reports, that there were 8 victims and 32 gunshot wounds. Now, on the standard gun that they're talking about that Jake was carrying and supposedly using, that would have been 8 reloads. If he was doing it that fast, that gun would have been so hot, he wouldn't even flip the barrel. There's no way. There's just no way. Not in under 15 minutes when Kenneth Rhoden lived, where does this, 15 minutes. It was a 15-minute drive from Chris Rhoden's or Union Hill to where he lived. So, I'm just not buying that on that right there. Now, the silencer that they made a big deal out of, that Jake made, it was, again, allegedly from what the police say, removed after the first shots because it jammed. Now, you mean to tell me that as close as these people lived, now also, if you've ever lived in a holler, or you've ever lived back in the country, which I'm telling my location here, you know that hollers echo and they carry sound. And they carry it from the back of the holler all the way to the top of the holler. So you're going to tell me that not a soul heard 32 gunshots. I just don't. All right, my next exhibit. Jake's inconsistencies. I'll just leave it as that because there's so many I'm not even going into. Going back to the time that it took to commit these murders. Now, they're saying that Chris Rhoden Sr. and his cousin Gary were the first crime scene and that it was by far the most violent and the most bloody. And when the sister called in on 911, she said that they had beat him to death, right? So Chris Rhoden was beaten severely. And Gary Rhoden was drugged from the trailer to the grow house. Now, boys, that took some time. That took some time to do. I just, again, nobody heard anything. I just can't. Okay. Now, when it comes to Kenneth Rhoden, the brother that lived 15 minutes away, he was found with a single gunshot wound to the eye, dead on his bed, with his body covered in dollar bills. That also took some time to do. Now, the fact that there's no evidence and the police, the investigators, the detectives, all of them have commented on how this was said to have been one of the cleanest crime scenes that they've ever seen. Now, you're going to tell me out of 4 homes, 4 crime scenes, that they're committing these murders in this short amount of time, which means they're zipping through there. They didn't leave any evidence behind. That's impossible. That's impossible. Have you ever heard of a case where the law enforcement literally confiscated these people's homes, vehicles, and ATVs? Now, the vehicles and ATVs, I don't know why they took, because they weren't part of any crime scene. Oh, in the process, they've destroyed the Rhoden properties. Custody of the kids. That's another one, and I'm going to leave it as that. Charles Reeder going to jail. George's comment on the wiretap about Reeder and DeWine and trafficking. DeWine showing up in person to Jake's guilty plea hearing. The autopsies that were never released, at least that weren't heavily redacted. The evidence of the homes, cars, and ATVs that they confiscated, stored in an old warehouse that was unlocked and unsupervised. That would have been a mistrial for George right there, you all. Now listen, I'm not advocating anything, but what's fair is fair. We have a legal system for a reason. This wasn't handled properly. My opinion. Jake and Angela were given the choice to opt out on video and audio recording of their testimony against George. How they get so special. Here's a big one. This is one that I found myself. Jail custody, chain of custody, in multiple facilities for all 4 members. Now you've got, if you go on to, I believe it's Pike County. Yeah, Pike County. All 4 of them are listed as current inmates in that jail. Billy Wagner is also listed as a current inmate in Butler County. George had 2. I can't remember what his was right off the bat. And Jake also had 2. But here we go. You've got Jake and Angela who've already pled out and took a deal. So they're already sentenced. So why are they still in the county jail? Not just that. Let's take it a little step further. You've got Billy, Jake, and George all requesting solitary confinement. I simply don't believe these folks are in jail. Angela may be. But I believe Frederica has put her long arm down to help out these boys. See, she didn't like Angela, so, and Angela supposedly was the spearhead in this whole debacle going down. But now, if you're in solitary confinement, you don't have any inmates that can say that they were in a pod or in a cell with you, they saw you, whatever, because why? You're in solitary confinement. They're not going to be expecting to see you. Oh yeah, here's a biggie. Union Hill Road was completely shut down for 3 weeks. Now I quote, a rotating cast of sheriff deputies have restricted access to the structures and roads near 30 plus acres of property owned by Chris Rhoden Sr. Now, here's another issue. It's the decision of who has legal rights to the Rhoden property that should be really to his sister. That's going to be determined in probate court. All this stuff, that's not how you handle things. Sorry, it's not. So, now I've got a page and a half of questions, but I'm going to limit it to 10 for this read. There's going to be several more because I thought I knew everything about this case while the trial was going on for George IV, and I've had to start back over from the beginning because things got so muddy before I started figuring things out, or what I feel like I think happened, that I got so confused. I just had to start from the jump. And I figured this time around, I'm going to take y'all with me. That way, I have people of like mind, or even if you disagree, respectfully, that I would like to hear your reasoning behind it because, hey, it might be something I missed. So, I'm open to anything, any possibilities. Never, ever claim to be 100% right because that's just not how it goes. All right, peeps. Here's some just basic stuff let's start off with. Let me get these questions here. Let's pick some here. What was the fight in the weeks before the murders between Chris Rhoden Sr. and Billy Wagner about? What was that all over? Why did Chris Rhoden Sr. make Hannah Mae end her friendship with Chelsea after they had the conversation about Jake saying he would cut her legs off? What is the significance in Kenneth's body being covered with dollar bills? The nature of the relationship between Frederica Wagner and Attorney General Mike DeWine. What is Frederica's true role in shady activities within the community and her business? What is the connection between Mike Moran and Pike County? Just for, because it bothers me. What happened to Megan? Right. What is the foundation that made the Wagners so terrified of Sophia being sexually abused? Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Why are there other murders in Pike County that are exactly as the Rhodens, but they're kept hush-hush. This is the only case that's ever been done like this. It's the exact same emo, sneaking into people's homes while they're asleep and executing them. All right, yeah, here's something. The truth in Angela drugging and sedating Billy Wagner. All right, there is 10. Them down. The first question. What was the fight between Chris Rhoden Sr. and Billy Wagner about? That's going to be the Queen of Swords reversed. That is someone making excuses for bad behavior. Ooh, like a parent. I just kind of wonder if this whole thing with Jake and Hannah didn't take a toll on them. It's a situation where one is unjustly attacked. Now, this individual who's unjustly attacked you has suddenly turned bitter and vengeful and not forgiving of something in the past. Now, also, in addition, this is a mother card, but in one aspect, it represents being dysfunctional and having a cold or absent mother. And it's this older female mother who is not a nice human being, pretty much. They're bitter, cruel, cold, unforgiving. You might as well, you mess up one time and you're done with. Got no other use for you. They use justification to drag others down. They're vindictive. They lack empathy for others, and they're obsessive and controlling. I feel like this is Frederica Wagner. So, clarify for me if this is Frederica. 5 of Wands reverse. That is representing an all-out war. Looking for an argument, extreme aggression, having a short fuse. It's also indicating deception and misinformation, showing you've been misled from that. Now, it's telling you that what you hear, take with a grain of salt because it's untrue and it's exaggerated because it shows dishonesty. Now, an additional meaning for this is taking legal action or litigation. I wonder if this ain't the actual custody issues that they were having. Okay, on to the next. Why did Chris Rhoden Sr. make Hannah Mae end her friendship with Chelsea? That's the Fool. New beginnings. How's this new beginnings? Because... Alright, let's clarify this. Here we get. Devil reversed. That's someone... Okay, I'm going to say this is indicating to me, Hannah and Jake. Even though Jake's doing things to her as far as putting his hands on her, and it's still... Her behalf is engaging in harmful behavior because it's happening. It's someone engaging in harmful activities, behaviors, wanting to be free from those problems. It indicates a near miss with a harmful, dangerous situation and or person. And it's warning you don't fall back in those old behaviors because that was what led you so close to danger to begin with. You barely scraped by. So it looks to me like Chelsea, and there was a comment she had made too saying that Jake had sent her a message on Facebook and said that his family was moving to Alaska because she wouldn't support him on social media. That to me right there tells me that this Chelsea was a lot closer to Jake than what she would like to admit. So it looks to me like they were good friends, and I'm sure Chris Rhoden Sr. knew this, and it's going to be a new beginning and a clean break from getting away from Jake. Then there ain't going to be no Chelsea running in between, packing tails between Jake and Hannah. I'm sure that's the way he was looking at it. Now, here's one that I've been wondering myself. The significance in Kenneth's body being covered with dollar bills. That's the High Priestess reverse. It's being more focused on the opinions of others than going with your own. It's like following the crowd. It's choosing a wrong path. Shows someone that's trying to persuade you to go against your intuition, and it indicates secrets that need to be out in the open. I'm going to write these down so I can bring these out in a second. Read. So I would like to know just What was he trying to, what were they trying to persuade him to do? And what secrets that need to be out in the open? Just a second here. All right. Now, the relationship between Frederica and Attorney General Mike DeWine. That's going to be the Page of Cups reverse. That shows frustration and irresponsibility. Offers that do not materialize. This Page of Cups reversed is unreliable. You can't rely on him. He's just too obsessive about his own needs. And an additional meaning is intoxication and too much partying. Looks like the Attorney General didn't have the same work ethic as Frederica. And I do believe that they've clashed on something in that town. Because you think about it, this woman owns that whole town. She owns all the land there. Who has the most toys is victorious. So, Frederica's true role and involvement in the alleged shady activities. Now, this is speaking in regards to the horse business they used to have, where they would stuff the horses full of drugs and pass them back and forth between the Mexican line. That's going to be the two people's reverse. That's showing ego and pride ruling forefront. Yes, ma'am, she was involved in all that because, here we go, the irresponsible spending, gambling, causing a hardship that you've managed to keep hidden. And it also shows the end of a business relationship. So who? First of all, who was the one with the gambling problem? And who is the business relationship coming to an end with, and what business is that? I see this is the problem with some of these readings, is they could just keep on building upon one another, and you can't stop. All right. Now, next question. What is the connection between Mike Moran and Pike County? Here we have the Hangman reverse, which is what they need to do to this man, but he's already passed, so opportunity lost. Let that be a lesson to you. Some things come with expiration dates. That's being impulsive, making rash decisions, and it shows one liberating themselves from an obligation that cannot offer them what they want. Yikes. Because this man was just minutes away from being convicted of human trafficking and before he died. So, oof. I think on that question. What happened to Megan? Now, I want to do a separate read on this girl, too, because I feel like I got a little bit of a taste of the story, and I would just like to know exactly. I mean, this girl's broke my heart. They all do. I mean, they really do. It's got the Ace of Wands reversed. That shows blocks to projects, delays to travel, disappointing news. It represents wasted potential, missed opportunities. It represents miscarriages, abortions, stillbirths, and difficult pregnancies. Oh, Lordy. I'm going to do a whole read on her. Next question. Foundation that worried the Wagners about Sophie and being sexually abused. Two of Wands reversed is misplaced trust in an unreliable partner and being in fear of the unknown. So, yeah, Jake's felt like he's put misplaced trust in Hannah. Hannah taking her around people he didn't think was good for her to be around. Fear of the unknown, not being able to be there to protect her. So they were telling the truth about that. Now, regarding the same murders with the same MO, why those aren't being spoke about and pretty much hush-hush, is the Four of Wands reverse that shows or represents unhappy families first and foremost. It signifies leaving home, feeling like you don't fit in, not feeling welcome or supported. It indicates failure and insecurity. It's being uprooted and that causing instability. This being a lack of community spirit and families divided. If they didn't arrest people for each, I don't, so a couple of them may not have solved, but they've got, for the most part, the two biggest ones with someone already pegged as the perpetrator and going to be spending time for these murders. So this was needed to offset or prevent the Four of Wands reverse from happening. So it didn't matter if they was guilty, you just had to have somebody fit the bill. Now, the truth, when it comes to Angie Wagner, drugging and sedating Billy Wagner. Now we've got the Nine of Pentacles reversed, which indicates lack of independence and freedom, but there's an element of dishonesty and deceit to this card. So she may be telling that she had to keep him sedated sometimes to keep him from beating up on her or whatever else she wants to tell. But that's not why the only reason why she done it. I'm going to take a stab at it and say that she done it to go out and do all that cheating that George testified to. Yeah, I got questions for the next read already. So it's going to take a bit to figure this case out, because I know there's a lot of elements to this case. Is the custody, and for those of you that felt in your gut the same, here's your confirmation. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining me over here and being a part of the audience. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye now.